Hi, I'm Andrew Bolton, professional triathlete and coach. I've been in the sport of triathlon for 10 years and I've raced internationally around the globe. I currently coach a wide range of athletes ranging from beginner to full Ironman athletes. Today we're going to be comparing a $200 road bike versus a $5,000 road bike. The two bikes look pretty similar, but there's actually a lot of differences. This is our $5,000 Specialized Tarmac and this is going to be our $200 Raleigh Record. There's a lot of differences between the bikes, but they look pretty similar. Okay, so the first point we're going to take a look at is the material quality of the bikes. I'm going to start with our $200 bike here. So the frame is made out of steel, and we've got aluminum on the wheels, aluminum through the drivetrain, and a bit of steel for the chain and cassette. And the main thing for this bike is that these materials are heavy. The steel frame, the aluminum parts, they're heavy. They're lower quality, so they're not that strong, and you lose a little bit of power transfer through these components. They're also a little bit more susceptible to rust and wear. So when we come over to our $5,000 bike, there's a big difference here. We've got a carbon fiber frame, we've got very lightweight aluminum components, and we also have very high quality steel and titanium through the drivetrain. So these parts are going to be very good for power transfer. They're going to be very strong, and they're going to be much longer lasting compared to the other components, and less likely to rust as well. So the second point we're going to take a look at is the bike's weight. This $200 bike here has a steel frame, heavy aluminum components as well. So let's just get the scale on here and we're going to see what that means for the weight. Get a nice lift here. All right, scale's coming in 29.7 pounds. So when we come over to our $5,000 bike, carbon fiber frame, lightweight aluminum and steel components, this is going to be much lighter. It's already easier to pick this up. Perfect. All right, scale's coming in 17.3 pounds. That's a full 12 pounds lighter than our other steel bike. So the weight difference, 12 pounds, that's going to be a big difference on the hills, when you're accelerating with the bike, any type of time you're moving the bike, you're going to feel like it's a lot lighter in your hands. So I can pick this bike up, with one hand, no problem. Moving that around in the car, transporting it, also much easier. And you feel that when you're riding as well. Versus the heavy bike, you need two hands this is much heavier to lift up. So if you're transporting that, accelerating, climbing, you're going to feel all of that extra weight slowing you down. So the next point we're going to be taking a look at is the bike's acceleration. You might accelerate on a bike when you're going back up to speed from a stop sign. Maybe you're accelerating out of a corner, or maybe you're trying to get over a small hill. It's anytime you're putting in a big power surge to get the bike back up to speed. So to compare the acceleration between these two bikes, I took both bikes through a corner and then accelerated out of that corner to a maximum sprint effort. For the $200 bike, when I was getting up to speed in that sprint effort, I felt all of that weight really slowing me down, and it was a lot of effort to get to that maximum sprint pace. I didn't feel great power transfer through the pedals, and it just sort of felt slow and a lot of work to get up to speed. In comparison with the $5,000 bike, when I was getting up to speed in the sprint, it was very nimble, very quick, very good power transfer, and it felt much more light and agile as I was putting in that power. The next area we're going to be comparing between the two bikes is braking performance. The main areas for braking performance are going to be the braking surface on the rim, the brake pads, and the brake calipers. And to compare those between the two bikes, we're going to be doing a 45 km/h to 0 km/h test in a full braking emergency stop. So for the emergency stop brake test on the $200 bike, when I squeezed the brakes full stop power, the main thing I felt was that the brake pads were sort of sliding and skidding on the braking surface, which didn't really give me very good braking. I was squeezing really, really hard, but I wasn't stopping as quickly as I'd like to. I did come to a full stop, but I just felt that the brake pads on the rim were not allowing me to have that bite into the braking that I really wanted. So for our $5,000 bike, when I slammed on the brakes, I was able to come to a stop in about half the time it took me with the $200 bike. So when I put the brakes on, I felt a really good initial bite. I felt really sharp and aggressive braking right from the start, and it was able to bring me to a very controlled and very powerful stop. Oh boy. So the next test I did was a climbing comparison test between the two bikes. I took both bikes up a 600-meter hill that was about 7% grade, and I just assessed the difference in power it took to get up the hill and the difference in speed. So the $200 bike going up the hill, this is where it really starts to struggle and where I really felt the difference between the two bikes. The $200 bike took a lot of effort to get going up the hill. I felt the extra weight and I felt the loss in power transfer. So you can see my body rocking a lot side to side trying to get this bike going to go up the hill. But in comparison, the $5,000 bike going up the hill, very good power transfer, very lightweight. It was much, much easier to get the bike up the hill. The final test we did was comparing both bikes' handling through a high-speed and low-speed corner. The $200 bike went through the high-speed corner quite well, but I think this is mainly due to the wider tires, which really did help it through that corner. The handling on the downhill leading into that corner and the low-speed handling did feel quite unstable, and it didn't have that nice, agile, smooth feel. In comparison, the $5,000 bike, along with feeling good in the high-speed corner, also felt very smooth and agile in the low-speed corners and felt very stable on the downhill section as well. For those of you just starting out in cycling, the $200 bike might be enough for you and is probably going to offer you just enough performance for what you're looking to do. If you're doing commuting, riding around town, the extra weight and the slower acceleration and slower climbing up hills isn't going to bother you, and there is a good amount of performance in the bike for those activities. If you're looking to get into racing though, you're going to want something with higher performance. You're going to want the lighter weight, the more snappy acceleration, the better power transfer, and you're going to want the higher performance bike for racing. You just won't be competitive on the $200 bike, and that's really where that cost difference comes into play. So thanks for tuning in to our first video. Hope that was helpful for you. And as always, I can't remember my catch line.
Go and give it a try.
So thanks for making it through our first video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, go and give it a try.